Okay, we are live from Cuyahoga County in Ohio, the Burning River hellhole. And I have with me a person who believes that he has the vision and his party has the vision to change that, not just in Ohio, but around the country. This is Mikhail Alterman. Uh, Mikhail, let's get started. I mean, what is it that you are a Republican, proud Republican?
Correct.
What is it about the Republican Party that drew you in, and how did it start your involvement in politics? And if you could just introduce yourself.
Well, my involvement in politics started with me being from former Soviet Union and of engineering mind, and trying to figure out how to make a difference in the sense of what makes things work, who pulls the strings, who controls strings, who calls the shots, what makes the world work, what makes the people tick, what generates prosperity. Digging in through all these questions, came across answers. What answers did I come across from? Well, turns out the United States and its founding fathers in particular has had quite a few answers to what I've been looking for. So it went from finding out how things are to, okay, what can we do about it? And as I found out over the last whatever number of years, the more the more I do things, the more effect I have, and it just spirals more and more where you take on more campaigns, more involvement, and you see more results. So at some point, of course, it's going to have to be limited. There's only so many waking hours in a day, but that's how I came about. And now the Republican Party in particular, at least in the Cuyahoga County, in modern day state of Ohio, is the one that's open to the debate, is the one that has a lively debate, that has had the right capitalist and freedom-centric answers. And it's got a long history of being inclusive and anti-slavery, anti other big government initiatives. And so far, I found it to be a lot less cliquey and a lot more dynamic. And so I can get into the details of, for example, what specific questions do you have about the state of Ohio or Cuyahoga County? How people get involved, who pulls the strings, who calls the shots. Turns out that sometimes, yes, it is rigged, but I got good news for you. Sometimes you can affect who and how rigs it. In fact, I can tell you a few stories. I mean, we're limited on time, but how I, as a regular average activist, that not only doesn't get paid, I'm the one who's writing checks, affects the policy, affects the political outcomes.
So we have in Ohio, we've had Republican governors for probably the better part of the past 30 years, at least since the last Democratic governor was Strickland, who was a pretty colossal failure, for a variety of reasons. But we have a Republican governor now, John Kasich. What do you think? He put out a statement a couple days ago where he said that the two-party system is going down. What do you think about that as a statement itself? What do you think about that, given that it comes from John Kasich, who ran for president in 2016?
Yeah, I have an answer for all of that. There's very little use in listening to John Kasich. Unfortunately, he's been a disappointment. He's no Strickland, but he's still a disappointment. He's positioned himself for 2020. He's running for president again. He's going to challenge Trump in the Republican primaries. He loves to make left-wing statements, and the Plain Dealer, as I call it, the Palestinian Dealer, our local paper. There's other left-wing, left of center, lamestream media outlets love a Republican that talks left-wing stuff. This is one of the main reasons why Kasich gets a free press. All he has to do is have a staff place a phone call, and they put him right on the air. They quote him right in the paper, no delay, no filters, no nothing. So this is the answer to your general Kasich makes a statement in today or in the next 2 years. So in that regard, I ignore it. But the main lesson is not this particular mechanics of what the current governor is doing and his current political plans. But the main lesson is the party is not the destination. And I'm as loyal, and I can't see how in my lifetime I'll be voting for Democratic Party or anyone who has Democratic on the ballots. But the party is not the destination. The party is a vehicle. And you have to understand this, you, Ramon, and anyone else listening, watching. It's a vehicle. Your principles, your ideology, or your nefarious whatever mechanism, things that maybe George Soros is thinking, that is the destination. The party is a vehicle. As you can see in the last 15 years, the very hard communist left hijacked the Democratic Party. It ceased to be a realistic alternative for most people. Many people I ran into in Cuyahoga County, they still claim to be Democrat, and then you talk to them and they're more conservative than I am. And then I ask them, why are you still a Democrat? And they don't have a good answer. They just remember from college days they became a Democrat, and then 10 years later they still think they're a Democrat, but the party went way far left. And so that's basically it. That's the lesson.
Well, I can certainly say that has been my life experience. My family growing up, they were both immigrants, that they both were loyal Democrats, Clinton Democrats. Hold on. This is the wrong screen. Sorry. I want to present an article about Dan Lipinski, who is a Democrat from Illinois, who is not getting any support from the National Democrats because he is anti-abortion, for example. It used to be,
Yep.
the Democratic Party that I grew up knowing about, because I've never been active personally. What was a little more open, there was the grunge rock era, and certainly freedom of speech was fine, I guess, in the Democratic Party. And then I sort of, I remember Al Gore was the person who made me decide I'm not a Democrat, because the guy was an idiot and he couldn't explain why Ralph Nader wasn't better. At the time, I thought Ralph Nader was a very interesting guy. I would have voted for him if I was a voting age. I thought in 2004 he was better. Gradually, I became alienated from both parties. And, eventually Ron Paul's ideas kind of got me to rethink whether we need a two-party system or not. So what do you say to those people who might be alienated from both parties, that they say, well, we don't like the lobbyist structure, we don't like foreign aid to any country, and we would like there to be a few more choices?
Well, I say welcome to the Republican Party. We have so many wings of the Republican Party. It's a healthy debate. And as such, we have in the Republican Party, we have a lot of good things going on. We have social conservatives, we have fiscal conservatives, we have national security conservatives, we have Ron Paul wings, we have now private sector unions coming out of the woodwork, and it looks like some of them, or quite a few of their rank and file people, are staying in the Republican Party. Thank you very much, Donald Trump. There are many different wings and camps, and there's not necessarily a structure membership. There's some other things. I can just tell you right now what's going on in Cuyahoga County, in the Ohio Republican Party on the state level, how these debates and ideas are hashed out, how they eventually come up for a vote, how some of them become policy. So the problem with the Democratic Party is it's hijacked. It's hijacked by the very billionaires that Bernie Sanders seems to rail against. Tom Steyer's, George Soros's of the world, all the big guys, all the big corporations, all the big public sector unions, big academia, big entertainment industry, just K through 12, all these places, they took over the Democratic Party, and there's absolutely nowhere for guys like you and me to go and participate in the political process and actually make any difference. In the Republican Party, there is actually a lively debate. Sometimes it takes 10 plus years to get anything done. Sometimes it takes a revolutionary election of Donald Trump to finally move the embassy, to finally cut the money that's sent to the Palestinian Authority. Finally, it's on the table to cut the money to South Africa, which is going all the way to the left and off the cliff, communist left, like
The
confiscation.
racist left too. I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's unbelievable. But at least some of these things are on the table for the debate. So my point to you is you got to participate in the elections. You've got to participate in the endorsement process. You've got to participate in political process. Now, as far as the two-party system, it is very difficult to change and open up uh, the state laws, the county laws, the this, the that, and the other to allow for the third parties, this parties, the other parties. The two parties have had it rigged, and now we have a better part of the last 2 decades that show that guys like Ron Paul do a lot more things and affect a lot more change when they participate in the primaries, in the primaries of the Republican Party in particular. Sometimes you get the nomination. Sometimes you're participating in the party platform. Sometimes you participate in some kind of a scanning committee or in some other committee or in other local or state meetings, and all of a sudden you make a lot more difference than trying to go off and do some libertarian thing, which is novel in theory, but in reality, at least around Northeast Ohio, it's the entirety of the rank and file of the Libertarian Party is just people that want to do drugs legally. And whether or not you're for it or against it, it's not exactly an encompassing platform that's going to generate some statewide or countywide.
right. And I think that it's the incompetence of the Libertarian Party on the national level that is, it's like I don't want to vote Republican, but all the other parties are kind of pushing you back. It's hilarious.
Right.
And what I think is funny is that we've had our conversations back and forth. Sometimes pretty testy conversations, and
Right.
especially on the forums, Facebook especially.
Sure.
And you have been a never Trump Republican,
Yes.
and I've also had issues with. I'm pro conservation, for example. I'm very pro gun rights. I'm against a lot of his oil policies, for example, because I think that environmental policy should at least look toward. I'm not one of these climate panic people, but I do believe in nature conservation should be a huge priority. But please tell us how about your own experience with the Trump, the Trump faction, how it is that you reacted when they started to gain success, and how you've been dealing with it since he won the nomination and, of course, the presidency.
Well, I can talk out of both sides of my mouth. I just finished talking about how you stay involved and you keep being involved, and staying involved is really how you affect change. But when Trump won, basically sealed the nomination on May 5th of 2016 by winning Indiana and cutting off chances for Cruz, I took a step back. I really cut back my checks to not just presidential campaigns, all checks. I just stood back. I turned off a lot of the news on both radio and TV or in the internet, and they just took a step back and didn't do as much politics. In fact, over the last year, my biggest campaign was for local city council that I supported, Eric Sonnenberg in Beechwood, Ohio. Thank you very much. Good victory there.
So that guy won.
I'll tell you how it came about. It is quite interesting how it came about. Trump did get a free press. I mean, you remember with Morning Joe and all these other programs, and even the biggest newsmakers on the left. They were always giving Trump a free pass. The whole idea has been it's the same thing that's been there before in 2008 and in other election cycles, where the weakest or what perceived to be the weakest Republican candidate gets all the free press from all kinds of lamestream news media, just so that, like McCain did, just so that they lock up the nomination. Once they lock up the nomination, overnight, just like law of physics, overnight, good press evaporates. The same reporters don't even return phone calls from the campaigns. It's the same story. So Trump did get a lot of free press. He locked up close to 39% of the Republican vote. The rest of the field was fractured. He was able to get the nomination, and I took a step back. I said, okay, well, I, along with the many others, expected Hillary to win, and well, it's disgusting. My part of Never Trump of 2016 has been that Trump is a lifelong Democrat. He's got very left-wing views. He became a Republican 5 minutes ago. I don't trust him with a 10-foot pole. Now, this is 2018. I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm supportive of most of the agenda. So in that sense, I guess never Trump circa 2016. So never in 2016. If it keeps going like this, yeah, I'll be voting for him in 2020. So that's my story with Never Trump. But let me tell you the effect it's had on the Republican Party of the state of Ohio and the Cuyahoga County. The biggest ally of son of a mailman John Kasich, our governor, was the state party chair, Borges. He got squeezed out. And the state party chair is none other than Jane Timken from Canton area, who was a very big Trump person. Now, if that doesn't tell you volumes about what's going on, you've got another thing coming. Now, who elects the state party chair? Because the state party chair then controls the staff and tries to manipulate the endorsements and this and that and the other. Because once you get the endorsements on local levels, on state levels, you get the whatever candidates. With whatever candidates, you get the agenda. And that's how the policy and things like that come about. Well, once again, I tell you, there are 66 people, 33 women, and 33 men that make up State Central Committee of the Ohio Republican Party, and they alone elect the state party chair. Those 66 people are up for re-election all the time, every spring on the even year. All you got to do is be a registered voter, come in the spring. This year it's on May 8th. You come in, you ask for a Republican ballot. I don't care where you live in the state of Ohio, there's something contested on a Republican ballot. And I can go through right now specific races. Maybe you've got specific questions about Northeast Ohio, University Heights, Beechwood, you name it. I can tell you that there's some contests. There are some different fractions of Republican Party jockeying for position to be elected into those 66 seats. And those 66 seats aren't paid positions. And you got to drive to Columbus and you got to do stuff and this and that and the other. But it is an important civic function. And it's a contested civic function. I can tell you right now, I've never been so wanted when you look at some of these races. And I can give you specific names about who's more conservative, less conservative, more conservative on this issue, pro-Trump, pro-Kasich, neither. You won't believe how far your vote goes. You won't believe how little participation there is, even from the Republicans. They don't even know about what I just told you. And that's how you really, this is on the cheap how you make a difference in politics and in the state of things in Ohio.
Yes, and I would say, personally, I don't get involved. You probably call me one of those idiots that doesn't get involved on the local level because I have such like a low confidence in a lot of the systems. But I would agree with you that I've seen, because I've been active on YouTube, I talked to other creators, that there are creators that were previously saying, well, we don't give a shit about any institution, Republican or Democrat, where we just hate Clinton or whatever. Well, some of them showed up at CPAC last week. That I was like super surprised. But
why not? But why is it all or nothing? It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Right. And I think you're presenting at least that you do believe that there's an open forum in the Republican Party. I would say that the forum in the Democratic Party is becoming scarily controlled. It's that's a huge problem that people over there, Dennis Kucinich, who, and I'm segueing into another topic that and we might not have time to go through it all, but Dennis Kucinich, who was a skeptic of the Russiagate, is pretty much a pariah in the Democratic Party. When I was growing up, he was like the symbol of the working class, Democratic Party. He was a symbol of the Democratic Party in the working class communities of Ohio, especially the West Side and Lorraine and everything. And he's running for governor now. It's a good question whether he'll get any support. And I don't like Dennis Kucinich's positions, but I respect his at least attachment to the beliefs that he believes in.
And
What
this is another example why you want to stay away from that party. That train left a long time ago. I'm having a hard time with some of the elderly, and I'm not the only one, with some of the elderly Jews that still come out there and proverbially still vote for FDR. That party left a long time ago. What they think of that party from decades ago, 70s and earlier, that train left a long time ago. Right now, the big money, the big Democrat money is behind Cordray. He's going to get the nomination. He's the train to beat. And there is no. I mean, I keep looking at some of these
This is the
left-wing
former Secretary
activists.
of State of Ohio you're talking about?
Yes, I keep
Okay.
looking at these bleeding heart liberals that think that they're doing good. Meanwhile, they're just like Lenin said, useful idiots. They're helping out this big monster, big government machine that's anything but worker rights or prosperity or fairness or anything else like that.
Yes, most of the committed progressives that I talk to, and I talk to a lot. I think you know a few too, because I think we know some of the same people. But a lot of the more committed ones who do their research know that the Democratic Party is selling them out just as much as they're selling, as some of us complain about, probably more so than the Republicans. But the whole Russia Gate thing, I want to hear your perspective. And if you want to close after that, I'm fine,
Sure.
because I know you have to get back. You are from the Soviet Union. This is so. Um, I do a lot of work. I'd like to share with you some of my videos about President Clinton and China, which I think, and I'm just gonna, this book, one of the greatest books you can get. Um, what's your opinion of that? Does that change your opinion of the intelligence community? Does it change your opinion of how the media relates to Russia? Because I know tons of Russians.
Yeah.
Part of my family comes from Russia.
Hmm.
What's your general impression of all those themes in this investigation, if you can call it an investigation?
Well, I think this is a very winning issue for the Americans. It's got a very short, and I'll come back to the whole party thing too. With the remind me about the platform and who pulls the strings, around the state party, the county party, but the the Russia thing is phenomenal. This is one of the many reasons why I just can't believe my eyes and ears, and what a time to be alive. I'm just looking at Donald Trump and I'm just saying, what a lucky son of a gun. And this is on so many levels. If I had to engineer a political opposition in the most ridiculous way, where they just keep digging a rat hole or their own hole and just keep digging it in a way that doesn't resonate and is not affecting massive majorities of the electorate, would be it. I would just literally, like, on purpose, just 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 like trained dogs, lamestream media and the Democrats and all these people. I would just say, yeah, yeah, go dig up this Russia hole and just keep digging into it. And meanwhile, people in Youngstown area, people in Northeast Ohio, people in the Appalachian regions, they look at it and they're like, you've got to be kidding me. Nobody's heard of anybody who's affected by any of this. The entire thing spruced out of, the fake dossier that's in part or sometimes in whole was completed by shady Russians with connections to destabilizing forces from the Putin regime, concocted by the Clinton campaign, taken to the bigger swamp than we thought. FBI, DOJ just got the FISA warrants and just started spying on the Trump campaign. Anyone that thinks that the Trump didn't get spied on, you got another thing coming. Because when they're listening to Carter Page, guess who else they're listening to? Anyone that he talks to, and any other warrants they got. So he was entirely spying on the Trump campaign and this and that and the other. And then after election, which they didn't really expect to lose, they try to use this to basically nominate Mueller of sorts and the special counsel to try to see if they can take down the Trump administration, take them down not just for collusion, because as you can see, these guys are investigating everything under the sun. They want the tax
Don't forget the
returns.
NRA is now a
They,
Russian
they
spy.
indicted Gates and Manafort for things before Trump even thought about the public office in this day and age. So they're trying to take it down. They're trying hard, and the only things they've uncovered is, yes, there's been the collusion, but it's been the collusion with the Clinton campaign. Collusion by itself is not illegal, but it's extremely unseemly. What they also uncovered is that Russia spent, what, 156 grand for Facebook ads. Only 46 grand of it was before the election. Only $300 of it was in the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, something ridiculous like this. And now you got to tell
The
me,
funniest is what they're saying now about the NRA being, a Russian puppet.
oh my
They say
God.
the same thing, and I talk about British politics too. They're claiming Brexit. They're claiming Italy, which Italy is about to leave the European Union as
Hopefully.
soon as they can, God willing.
Yeah.
But look,
But listen, I tell you one
yeah,
funny story, and this is maybe
yeah, go
not
ahead.
the perspective you're getting. I do get active with some ex-Soviet Jews, and we do have sometimes delegations from Russian Federation as it is right now, and quite a few of them do get exposed to this wall-to-wall Putin propaganda. They come over here all brainwashed too, and I tell you, one of the biggest shocks in their faces is when they find out that no one around here is getting ready for war. There's many of them are sitting there just completely convinced that the Americans are out there coming after them.
Well, the
Because
the funniest the funniest I see is, do you know who Masha Gessen is? The writer for the New Yorker. So
I think I've seen her things on in and out,
so,
but go
so
on.
I mean, I'll tell this is for the benefit of the audience as well. Masha Gessen is basically a liberal, lesbian, anti-Putin activist who writes for the New Yorker, and they think that that substantiates her. And I'm not disputing that she has some knowledge of Russia. She's from Russia, but her entire career is basically just attacking Vladimir Putin for whatever reason. And then they expect the New Yorker and other, CNN, I think, occasionally features her. They expect that to be taken as unbiased reporting on Russia. And I'm sorry, but, I'm not going to say that I support the type of government over there, but uh, this is the most dangerous thing in the world right now, to reignite the Cold War and to distract us from pressing domestic agenda stuff.
Well,
And
listen, they're not friends. They're not allies. They're definitely opponents. On occasion, they become enemies. They do. I do get reports where people aren't delusional. People in the Trump administration do get reports of the Russian jets buzzing around, invading the airspace. Um, there's times in the Persian Gulf with the Iranians, it's the same thing where where you got people sitting there on the trigger, the U.S. commander sitting there on the trigger, and you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You pull the trigger and you shoot them out of the air, you shoot them out of the water, you can start something, but at the same time, they're too dangerously close, and then you can have a USS Cole kind of thing where you've got a problem. So it is not sustainable. I wish that Trump would change the rules of engagement so that the Russians and the Putin types knew that this means business. Um, but it is what it is. I mean, listen, I don't pay much attention to these anti-Putin types. I mean, this whole thing that if you want to have an investigation and find out what Putin is about, you just turn on the Russian television, RT.
yeah, RT, which is,
You don't
by the
have to
way,
be.
as
You don't have
bad
to
as
watch
people
it.
say it is, RT actually has better news coverage than CNN and MSNBC, because they do feature people from all over the world,
Yeah,
and you get
but after watching it, you understand what they're coming from. They bring in extreme left, they bring in extreme right. They try to destabilize or polarize the U.S. population. That is their agenda. In fact, you can see the ads that they spent weren't exactly pro-Trump. The Russians, as we find out, if there's any return on the money from this Mueller thing, the Russians were convinced that Hillary was going to win. So they were running anti-Hillary stuff, thinking that she was going to win. It wasn't pro-Trump. But the majority of the things weren't the majority of the things weren't like 2016 election cycle related. The majority of the things were the grievance mongering for the black voters, the stoking secession movements in the state of Texas. So any way they could fracture the society, they were doing it with their puny budgets. I don't think it's working. I think the Clinton News Network, the Palestinian dealer, they do a much better job of fracturing the society than the Russians ever could. But if they want to waste their money, sure, whatever.
So you're also, like myself, you are Jewish.
Yes.
And we have a lot of people in our community. I've been called a fascist. And I'm a Rand Paul supporter. So so go figure. But there's a lot of issues there where we're dealing with people, like you said, that are stuck in the old paradigm of the FDR Democratic Party.
It's very difficult to break through. They do get their weekly subscription of Cleveland Jewish News, which is very left wing. I keep talking to the publisher about it. I said,
extremely left wing.
Yeah. I listen. I'm not here to write letters. I've done it in the past. I'm over it. That's it. I'm not writing letters. Get another editor. You didn't increase your subscription. I for a fact would start subscribing. Right now they're sending me a free one. Once they go off year on year, they send me a free subscription, and then I'm like, okay, great. I'm not paying for it. It goes to, most of the time it goes straight in the garbage can before I even open it.
So my question though, so Mr. Trump decided to move the embassy to Jerusalem.
Yes.
I personally don't care.
No.
A lot of people consider it fantastic.
Yeah.
And hate Trump otherwise.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know what he has to do to convince some of these weirdos that he's not. It's unbelievable.
You don't have enough time. You don't have enough time to peel off. We talked about it with the Josh Mandel campaign, some other campaigns. There are too few Jewish voters that are persuadable. The amount of energy and amount of time it takes. My advice: listen. There's a lot more non-Jewish, middle of the road, in as much as there are undecided voters left. It's just not worth it. So the embassy for yes, great. It's great for Zionist circles and this and that and the other. But the big thing with the embassy is it finally showed to at least a lot of the people right of center, people that are objectively looking at the Trump campaign, at least it showed to what extent a good chunk of the planet is rotten and anti-American. There's no reason to send any money to Pakistan, to South Africa, to you name it. They're sending grant money to China too, under the auspices of academic research and aid and whatever else. There's billions of dollars at stake. U.S. aid, whatever aid that Israel gets should be moved to the military column to whatever extent it's there. Because what it is just basically Israel is a laboratory for the U.S. weapons, which is
you do know that I'm against all foreign aid whatsoever.
Yeah, well, listen. If you cut out all the UN budget and all the Pakistan stuff, then yeah, maybe I'd actually be considering being in favor, probably in favor of the 2.6 billion, 2.1 billion, depending on the year that Israel gets. Listen, they've been moved a little while ago into developed country category from developing economy. Long overdue move. They're developed. They really don't need multi-million-dollar systems so that they can micro-target some Hamas member so that in such a way that his cousin doesn't get killed. I'm sorry, you spend less money on your missile systems and the Hamas guy's cousin dies too. Unfortunate, but too bad. Spend less money on these systems. Get the job done, and that's the end of the story. The U.S. taxpayer shouldn't have to pay for these extreme systems that cost a lot of money, The Hamas sends something that costs $1,500. There's $1 million missile that's sent in the air to intercept. I mean, this is very asymmetrical. We shouldn't be paying for it.
I think we have an agreement here. I
Yeah.
have a question from the audience. What are your thoughts on, this is from the Rapper 10,000, what are your thoughts on YouTube censoring conservative channels?
Well, my sense
Are,
about conservative channels. Oh, YouTube. Oh,
are
it
you
is
active
a
on YouTube at all, or
it is a Trump issue. I don't know who has any pull with the Trump administration. There is a Federal Trade Commission that should open up a case because the YouTube did a switcheroo. On the one hand, they have terms of service, terms of agreements, where we're a platform. We're not an editorial. We're a platform. You know, my biggest complaint with Cleveland Jewish News, for example, is that they're a left-wing paper. They're lying about being neutral or independent, but they're not lying about being a paper. They're a paper. There's an editor. They can block you. YouTube and Twitter types built their stuff as a platform. So a lot of the content creators, a lot of the other people jumped on board as a platform. So now they're communist censoring it. I do like the move on Dennis Prager's part about what he's doing with Prager University. Now that is a big thing. There's a lawsuit. I don't see how Google wins it. I say if I was Google, I'd be settling it. But who knows? Google may be trying to lose more billions of dollars. But in effect, personally, I've found alternatives. Gab for Twitter. There's a PewTube. There's a BitChute. There's Vimeo, even though Vimeo is kind of a part of a left-wing company. But there are alternatives, and I've already moved on to them. My main search engine is not Google. My main search engine is DuckDuckGo. No, I'm not on Android. I'm on the iPhone. So see you later, Google there too. And those are some of the personal steps I've taken. I highly recommend others do take that too. Is there still Google in what I do? Yes, but it's a much smaller part of it. I don't have the time and the money of Dennis Prager, for example. I can't take them to court, but it is a government issue. It's a policy issue. Yeah, you're a private company, but you lied for years about what your platform, what your terms of services are. And it's a legal issue now that you've lied. Now you've got people onto it, and content is created, and certainly quite a few antitrust things. I'm not going to cry if Google gets taken to some legal channels for kind of like Europe or even more harsh about various things. I'm all in favor of just unloading it on these so-called companies.
yeah, the thing is that this user who was asking me Rapper 10,000 is the way he found my channel was through a black conservative channel called Anthony Logan. I encourage you to maybe call in one day to him. He takes Skype calls,
Okay.
and yeah, these creators who come from, they come from all communities, and they believe in, not all of them are conservative. Some of them are simply independent. They're
Right.
they're being squelched by a massive corporation that
Yeah. And
it's ridiculous. Just like the
right,
James
right,
Damore
right.
case.
Well, I'm a big supporter of Project Veritas. So what he recorded with Twitter is nothing short of grounds for virtual rioting. You've got H-1B visa holders that are here supposedly because we can't find local people. They're sitting there explicitly censoring U.S. conservatives, and if I was Trump, I mean, the left wing is lucky that Trump is what it is, because if some harsh conservative like myself was in charge, nobody in Silicon Valley would get an H-1B visa for anything. In fact, I would pull the plug on the current ones, let alone the future ones. It would be, I would, I would make, within a week, you'd have Twitter and Google hiring diehard conservatives to be effectively content editors within a
Well,
week.
I would say I wouldn't agree with that approach. I'd say the Sherman Antitrust Act should be enacted. That Google would be forced to sell off some of their assets. I think YouTube should be included. I think that the problem with one of the few areas I think where there should be some intervention is to prevent monopolies and prevent things from becoming state utilities. That's why the net neutrality thing is the biggest joke in the world because Amazon's the biggest supporter.
Yeah.
Um,
No, the whole thing. I mean, I'm a professional in the high tech area, and I tell you, the biggest problem is that not the Comcasts and Time Warners, which I dislike tremendously. The biggest problem are these other platforms that have taken over Twitter and Google, and Facebook now too. They're now not a platform that you see. They're now an editorial service and with the thought police. So it's certainly an antitrust issue. I go back to what we started with. What do you do about it? Okay, so fine. So personally, I de-Googled myself a little bit, or if there is such a word. But then, okay, what else do you do? I'm not in a position of political power. I'm not sure if I want to be. But as a local activist on the local Republican level, okay, right now, a lot of people are looking for nominations, right? A lot of people are looking. My vote on May 8th in the Republican primary is a lot. There are judicial candidates. There are candidates for the governor, for all kinds of candidates. There's all
we might
kinds
want
of
to revisit that when it gets closer to the date too.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, when the time to ask a Republican office holder to do stuff is too late. The time to ask is when they're running for election or Republican nomination. This is the time to ask. Listen, this is the kind of policy we need. We need to roll back Obamacare expansion. We need more school choice. It's a civil rights issue for Black students. It's a thing for Catholic schools. It's a Jewish identity issue. It's good for finances. The pop quiz to you and the viewers out there and listeners. Hey, what's the biggest political force in the state of Ohio? Is it ExxonMobil? Is it some big fat Republican somewhere on the big ranch? No, the biggest by far political force in the state of Ohio is the teacher union. If you're starting out as a teacher, 35 grand, modest salary, whatever school district, $700 right before taxes goes straight to the union. 90% of it goes to the Democrats, to their left-wing causes and campaigns. I mean, I'm just saying, it's a massive thing that's keeping us down in both workforce and finances and what a rat hole it is from Shaker Heights, Ohio to whatever. By the way, talk about local elections. See, there's another reason why you got to participate, not just in the party politics. You got to participate in all small elections. And we got to do the screen share where I got to show you and others where to find out what's going on.
Well, you want to do that now?
But what I'm trying to tell you is right now, Beecher, Ohio is supposedly is a good school district. It is a good school district because the kids in general, are good in the sense of the parents instill the values of the education, and in the Asian and the Black and the Jewish kids that go to the Beecher schools, they're generally good. However, right now it's over $27,000 per student, and guess what? They're going for another school levy. There's never going to be enough money for these people. It's going to be over $1 million. They're still going to demand more. They're going to demand more from the federal government, from your local taxes, from the state government, and they're always going to confront you with the fact that, listen, if you oppose any of this, you're as if you're for some kind of a illiteracy.
You hate kids. You hate kids, Mikhail.
Yeah, I hate kids. I'm for illiteracy.
You're like what's his name, Gargamel from the Smurfs. The cat. You ever see that show?
No. Listen, I am not on board with a lot of pop culture.
Yeah. So look, there's definitely a lot more that we could talk about today.
All right, let me show you what I'm talking about from registration and what's going on.
Okay, I gave the screen to you. You should be able to share it.
All right. Okay. So you should be looking at my screen. You can do, for example, I'm going to do DuckDuckGo. All DuckDuckGo search engine, right? So you go do internet search for, say, Cuyahoga County elections. And you can do with your own county, wherever you are. So Cuyahoga County Board of Elections, there it is, right? So it's a similar website to everybody. Most counties have something like this. If not, there's a Secretary of State of Ohio. All the information is there. Let me show you what's available. My voting information, I'm going to go to this. Look at this. Alterman, birthday, there I am, comes up, shows me my address, the party. By the way, in the state of Ohio, party just means the last time when you came out in the spring or other elections that were partisan, what kind of ballot did you take, right? If you take a Republican ballot last time you voted in some spring election, you're therefore a Republican by the state of Ohio standards. Now, other states are different. The next time you take and you vote for, say, Operation Chaos, right? Remember that with Rush Limbaugh, cute thing where he did the Operation Chaos, where he encouraged some of the Republicans to cross over in 2008 election and vote for Hillary to drag out the Democrat primaries. I don't know if it's a smart move. Contested primaries are not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of outdated thinking that contested primaries are bad. But anyway, Republican shows you all the different districts. Now look at this. My participation history shows you everything since I became a citizen, all the elections. Now, at some point, I started tracking. I live downtown, so yes, Cleveland 13, G, H. And then it shows you all the different elections that I took part in, how I voted in a sense of mechanism. It doesn't show you, of course, how I voted, but it shows. But yeah, all this information is there. So you can download this in one giant spreadsheet or sets of spreadsheets and analyze it and go see for yourself which cousin of yours, which friend of yours didn't vote. You'd be surprised how many people didn't vote in 2012, how many people didn't vote in 2010, how many people think they're a Republican, but they never showed up in the spring to vote for a Republican. So this is what one can use to see for yourself whether or not you voted, see for your own friends, okay, who's voting, who's not voting. There's something interesting too here in Cuyahoga County. They have voted poll worker. This is me stepping up to the plate and saying, listen, you don't have enough Republicans in the inner city to sit there and check IDs at the voting location. Okay, I'll volunteer. I mean, it's not a volunteer because it's a paid temporary job with the Board of Elections, but I said I'll do the work, not for the money, but I'll do the work. And so I did. You can see that these are the 6 elections that I participated in, and all in Cleveland, various little elections. And so this is the useful information. I strongly suggest that people do this. Once you do this, you realize what's going on. Now, also, when you go and frequent Board of Elections website, you also see elections, election information, view ballots. And that's when you find out, surprise, there's another levy. In the state of Illinois, the state of Illinois is very famous for having a bazillion different taxing authorities, not just libraries themselves, I think.
Mosquito districts. They have mosquito control districts.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And unless you're really active in party politics, you don't even know that some of these levies are coming out. In fact, I'm gearing up this year to oppose the Beechwood suck 'em dry school levy. You know, what a disaster.
Yeah, I think we have another one in my city too.
Yeah, I know. Of course, there's never enough money. They're always going. Parma for years went. Parma, Ohio went for years. Every 6 months to go out for the levy. It was just like, all right, we'll just keep taking a shot. One of these years, it'll go through. So they just perpetually had a levy every 6 months. So anyway, this rate. How do I stop sharing? Oh, there I go. Stop sharing. But yeah, you can take the screen back if you want. But this is something. Now, the other topics we want to talk about, and we don't have too much time. I got about 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
We can talk about Second Amendment, and I can tell you more about Second Amendment. I mean, I bought my first pistol at a gun show. I got thinking as a result of some political stuff that goes on. I didn't have anybody that was into guns as far as relatives or friends. And I'm now the one that's an expert and people go to for questions on technicalities, on shooting ranges, on CCW, on concealed carry, this, that, and the other. Um, but no, there is no gun show loophole. No, no, they do call FBI and stop lying about it. No, there's no such thing as fully automatic things that have been
What about
banned
the
for
chains, the
civilians. They've been
chainsaw,
banned from
chainsaw
civilians unless with
bayonet?
special federal permission since 34.
I
And
want
no,
I want a chainsaw bayonet, by the way. Is it possible for
yeah,
my
chainsaw
AR-15?
ban that. Yeah,
Did you see
listen,
that
you
one?
can order it, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to shoot anything with it. You may
Right.
have to like drive it in the back of the truck to keep it steady. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz, what in the last 24 hours, she declared, automatic rapid fire magazines. She said,
Yeah, that's yeah, the magazine will make your, yeah, exactly. That's like when
yeah,
they tell you
just
you
goes
need.
over the top. Listen, you got to solve all these problems with this sheriff guy, the background checks. That's all broken. There's a lot of things with the big bloated government you got to fix before you come up with the technicalities of this or that caliber, this or that bump stock. That those are much bigger things. I don't get worked up too much about Trump saying something about the age and this and that and the other because I don't think politically I don't think it's going anywhere. The only
Yeah,
bad thing
Joe
about it is,
Manchin, by the way, the Democrat from West Virginia, said he'd
yeah,
vote against it.
yeah,
So
well, that's his
I
only
think they're
shot at saving his Senate seat. But the
they
only
that
reason why,
well, there are enough.
listen, let me tell you something. You got to watch these Democrats from Republican-dominated states. They're
Exactly.
like Manchin. They're like Manchin. They'll come out against it. They'll come out as conservative if they think it's not going to pass, if it's not going to go anywhere. And I'm telling you, it's not going to go anywhere. The polling and the gun ownership is such that whatever Democrats want, whatever they want to settle for, is a non-starter with like 80-something% of the voters. So they can't take it anywhere. So it's not going to go anywhere. So in that regard, it's a winning issue. It's a winning issue for freedom-loving capitalists, but and U.S. patriots. But it is going to waste some time next week on the legislative calendar. Instead of doing waste of time with this legislative calendar and the media cycles, they would be better off confirming more judges and doing some other things. So in that regard, yes, it's a waste of time. But all right, so public pensions. Oh, and listen, something else that's up in the election on May 8th is this proposal on
In
redistricting.
Ohio. Yeah.
In Ohio, redistricting. This is so nasty. I don't understand why some of these Republicans are trying to be so-called fair, and they literally are idealistic about it. They're trying to be fair and bipartisan. Forget it. Look at the Republican Party in Connecticut or in California, in New York. They got districted out of it years ago. No mercy. No mercy. The victor takes the spoils, and the Republican Party in the state of Ohio should just completely run over the Democratic Party and then double back and run over them again and again and again and again.
Yeah, the Democratic
No.
Party here is a joke.
Well,
It's a huge
listen.
joke, and it's I'm saying a joke in terms of if you go outside of three counties in Ohio,
Yeah.
they don't have anything, no anything that's in common with anybody. You go to a city like Dayton,
They
and
can't even get their own meetings started. They've got this minefield of gender neutral pronouns, not assuming one's gender. It's completely out of control. They can't. I mean, if regular person who's kind of left of center, who's used to voting for Democrats in Youngstown, really knew about the true agenda of the Democratic Party, they'd run away from it, as they should.
I have here, Chris Jones tuned in too, but I have another remark from the rapper where he says more students here in Chicago, mainly women, staged a walkout to protest guns and the NRA in support of the Parkland shooting. I would say if they want to protest guns, they might want to not go outside in Chicago,
Yeah.
because they're and by the way, my argument, I'm a civil libertarian too, because like I said, I don't want to be part of a party. I mean, I'm fine with you being in it, but in terms of gun prosecution in a lot of these anti-gun states, they don't really prosecute illegal handgun possession. In
Yeah.
Illinois and in the St. Louis
Yeah,
area,
and
they
Obama
don't.
was the worst. Obama was the worst. The stats came out. He literally dropped the ball. They didn't prosecute any of this. I mean, not only do not prosecute, apparently in Broward County, they got this program with under Obama that they were big fans of, where they try not to get the police involved, uh, and then all these places that try to run games with their crime stats and the church shooter in November in Texas was supposed to be in a database but never got there. Another screw up by the government. So the
Oh,
House,
did you see the video of the Broward County deputy that was training uh,
oh, the
attendees
Muslim
at a
thing,
mosque
yeah.
for? And it's like you have to have a consistent position for every.
And
You can't have
it's
one.
absolutely
Yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah,
yeah.
since 9/11, there's been one semi-drunk guy that ran his truck into a mosque in the building. Then there was one guy that lost his life in Texas. That some guy stormed some convenience store. That's it. That's all there's been anti-Muslim after all these jihadist attacks in the U.S. And that's all it's been. So it just shows you how
Well,
benevolent.
there have been more hoaxes than there have been attacks.
That's
I
right.
would say
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
So with all that stuff, they go out of their way to say, well, mosques need to be armed, but at the same time, able and willing and trained teachers cannot. Oh, well.
Yeah,
There again.
I would say that unfortunately, I have met people that have a good gun control argument. They're not the people that are representing the gun control
Well, listen,
supporters.
the gun control, the any effective restriction like a confiscation style gun control beyond what we have, it's going to have to be repeal of the Second Amendment, which it's wrong thing to do, wrong thing to advocate for, and I would debate anyone intellectually and otherwise about the merits of repealing the Second Amendment. But that's really the only way and the only thing that logically makes sense.
Oh,
Because
you
all
ask.
these other
I've
things
tried
about
to ask
the
people, and these are people we both
magazine
know.
this and age this and the other thing, it doesn't stand the scrutiny of the amendment, of the reason why that thing is there. The reason why that thing is there is not for the safety of schools, although that's an important part of the liberty. Um, it's not there for shooting, hunting and shooting sports. It's there because if, God forbid, this place becomes a Bernie Sanders Central or Jeremy Corbyn Central, and or it becomes like Venezuela. God forbid this happens. The citizenry needs to be armed. At the same time, you talk to gun enthusiasts and whatever else. Yes, they'll tell you that no, artillery is not covered by Second Amendment. No, you can't have a
Sam missile.
yeah, no, not in your backyard. No, no, no. But yes, you should have a semi-automatic, well-armed weapons if you're not a felon and can actually handle it. So yes, there's some arguments to that effect.
Yes, and I would say that one of the problems is that they believe that people who I support gun rights, um, they think that. Can you lower your volume because I'm getting some feedback. Or
Lower my volume?
yeah, I'm getting like I'm hearing an echo.
Oh, all of a sudden, huh?
Yeah, but in any case, the they believe that we want everybody to be armed. I would say some people maybe it's not the best choice. Obviously, the people who are psychological cases, I don't believe they should be armed. I also think a lot of people should explore, for example, martial arts training or whatever. But those are alternatives to owning a gun. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be allowed to own a gun. It means that people should be in charge of their self-defense. The same people who believe that the police are racist bigots who
Yeah.
that came out of the KKK, now they're saying if you're attacked on the street, you should call the police. I
Yeah.
would say I have never been like a big police supporter, and this doesn't make me even. I mean, especially with what's going on in Broward County. There's a huge issue where we now see that citizens do need to take their own self-defense into their hands. So let's
No.
close. How about you talk about you have let's say 2 minutes, run out the clock. What do you think is the most pressing issue for a voter to focus on would it be to be active in the political system, or would it be to share, like what I do, blogging and videos and stuff like that? What do you think is the most productive way?
No, you got to get involved in the political system, and the best way to get involved is you get involved in the party. You can say I'm not part of the party, but you're still going to have to get involved. I can tell you, as someone who writes very modest checks to this or that campaign on an ideological basis, it's amazing how many people actually listen to me. It's amazing how many people, and this is to your question about lobbying. I'm not against lobbying. Listen, let them lobby. It's like a Citizens United issue. So as long as it's transparent, but get it all out there. Why not? So that you know who's pulling strings and you know who's ideological, who's not ideological about it. Let them lobby. Now, the biggest problem is, of course, with the federal spending is then they try to lobby for spending for themselves, and then you get to the $4.2 trillion annual budget, which, by the way, is the biggest problem with the Trump administration spending. But to cut back on spending, you need to get involved in the political process. You need to get involved in the political process. You need to vote in all elections. You need to vote in all elections early. I'm so serious about my elections. I don't even mail in my early ballot. I drive to the Board of Elections to make sure that once I'm done voting, the ballot is in the building. There's no post office in the middle involved. And you vote in the smallest of elections. We had one small election about term limits in the city of Beechwood. They intentionally put it on a one-off February when too many people are out and it's freezing and so many snowbirds in the city and this and that and the other. You come out and you vote. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how much my vote counted when Gingrich, Romney, and Huckabee were running for nomination in 2012. Every vote, and now with modern day data analytics and all these voting things available, right? I showed you the web page with my voting information, but you download the whole thing with all the voter information from the Secretary of State or from the county, and that's how the political campaigns and whatever is start to target people. So if you think one's vote doesn't matter on some election or somehow you don't know, listen, I've got another thing coming to you. And I can tell you about elections that were decided around here by 20 votes, 29 votes. And some of it had $15 million impact for 4 years on one suburb. This is just like everybody's vote matters. The mayor, where I live, the mayor's election was decided by 37 votes. Three-way election. So you vote, you get on the mailing list to make sure you know who to vote for. I used to not give a crap about judges until I had a civil litigation in Summit County, Ohio. Like, it's non-political. It's supposed to be non-political. Just like a dispute, a business dispute. 2 years later, bazillion dollars on both sides, a disaster of a docket, judge can't be found, some who knows what staff reads, sometimes rules on motions, doesn't go anywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. So I started paying attention to what's going on with the judges. Let me tell you, there's a judge we have right now in Cuyahoga County, Judge Gold. Oh my gosh, her docket is a disaster. I know someone who's going through a divorce can get a ruling on some conflict of interest about a lawyer 6 months into it.
Yes, there was in New York State, upstate New York, there was a judge who was elected who is physically incapable of serving. She has some sort of this weird, really fucked up digestive problem.
Yeah, but listen,
there are,
but
those
I'm
elections
telling you,
do
these
matter.
judges on the ballots, they don't have Republican or Democrat by design in the state of Ohio. So in a lot of other states, it's the same way. So it's up to you as an activist to find out. So when you come out to vote in whatever fall, you don't just, it's not one vote. It's one vote for each race. Even by the time the Ohio Supreme Court election, 40% of the people already dropped off. That's an Ohio Supreme Court. You can only imagine what it comes out to by the time it's municipal or a county level. A municipal judge, a long-time incumbent, got overthrown in Mayfield and Lyndhurst, Ohio, recently. Literally a handful of votes. Turns out I was responsible for some of those votes because I mentioned something in the synagogue to some people because I got an email from some conservatives with judgment of trust, this and that and the other. Next thing you know, there's a few votes going this way and the other way. Surprise! What a change. massive change. And this is exactly what happens, because once you start electing local judges and local city councilmen, and right now it's a very difficult time right now to recruit for some of the school boards, because some of these communists who spent 40 years taking them over around here. So yeah, good luck with that, right? But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, school boards, by the way, are the most underrated position,
Right,
because
and
they determine
there's
so
so
much.
few votes to decide it, and there's a lot at stake. The books, the budgets, the this, that, the other. Yeah.
Curriculum,
No,
yeah.
no, you stay involved in political. It's absolutely, listen, the blogging, the pontificating on all the internet platforms, that's all fine and dandy, and yes, and staying informed. But much more important, this is why I don't pay attention too much to what Trump said here and there right now, in as much as it's fun and circus, because I can't affect it too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't pay attention to too much. I pay attention more of, okay, is there a fundraiser for some local judge, for some upstanding lawyer who left a very lucrative, or is leaving a very lucrative, profitable practice at a private law firm to run for a judge, to take a pay cut, and for them to see me show up with a $50, $100 check, which, I don't have it. I'm not even a lawyer. I'm just here as an ideologue. I'm just here to say thank you for running, because I know what it's like to run against this Democrat machines. If you know about that Stokes judge and everybody else, I know what it's like to run against this Democratic Party machine. So any way you can support, especially uphill candidates in some of the urban areas, yeah, you got to come out there and vote.
Well, we'll have, hopefully one day we'll have you again if you're willing to come on. We
Thank
have
you for
Chris.
having me.
Chris said we need more of these conversations. I think Chris is from Arizona or something, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But look, I think that we have a difference of perspective, obviously, because I'm more of an anti. I don't believe in a lot of these institutions. I think they're kind of they don't serve me. But you've put together a good case of what you've accomplished as far as races you've changed. I think that there is something to say about ways that we can exchange ideas between the people that are involved in the elections. And I think absolutely May 8th. I'll explore even going out there. I hate going to vote. I hate it. But you put out a good case for somebody I think shouldn't be elected. Yeah, I'll probably show up. Absolutely.
No, no, no,
So
no. They don't just show up in the fall. Okay,
I know
not
I'm
presidential,
talking
not
about
runoff.
even primaries. Yeah, even
Every
primaries.
6 months,
Yeah.
there's something. Every 6 months.
Chris said, "Did you just assume my state? Like the gender." But
Maybe
anyway,
Chris is a Democrat and he's dead and he's voting in 17 states.
who? Oh, this guy. Yeah.
I didn't mean it to be insulting. It just,
But
you know
look,
what I mean.
this is Mikhail Alterman, GOP activist, and who knows? Maybe we'll have you again
Yeah.
if you.
No, we
I
still
know it's
got to
hard to
cover
reach you.
healthcare. We still got to cover public sector unions, and I got a lot to talk about that.
Yeah,
A lot.
absolutely. I haven't covered enough about unions, even though I know personally a lot about it. But we could do like a whole thing about that one day if you want.
All right, we will. We shall.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Have a good Shabbos. Shabbat
Happy
Shalom.
Purim to you, too.
Happy Purim. Yeah, we saw each other on Purim actually.
Yeah.
Talking a lot about these issues. In fact, and by the way, I mean in the Purim story, it says in the end the Jews had to go out and defend themselves. They didn't call the cops on, the people that were gonna
They
shoot
didn't
the.
call their lawyers.
Right. They didn't. They didn't
That's it.
file. They didn't go and wear little pussy hats and march to the public square. It was not exactly.
Combat.
Right. I mean, it is what it is. That's what it says in the text. So thanks again. Hopefully we can get some of the people we've argued with on here too, even though they don't like coming on at all. It's harder to get
We'll talk
some
to
of
them
the.
about
What's that? Yeah, sure. Anyway, have a great rest of your day
it.
and
Yeah,
weekend.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Bye bye.
Bye bye.